Long ago, in a land called India, a prince named Siddhartha Gautama was born. He lived in a magnificent palace. His father, the king, wanted to protect him. The prince knew only luxury and ease. He had never experienced the harsh realities of the world. As Siddhartha grew older, he felt a deep longing within him. He sensed there was more to life than pleasure and possessions. The prince yearned for something deeper, something true. He wanted to understand the meaning of life and suffering. One day the prince decided to venture outside the palace walls. He had heard whispers of the world beyond, but he had never witnessed it firsthand. Siddhartha was curious and a bit afraid. He knew his life was about to change forever. Siddhartha left the palace with his charioteer, Channa. They rode through the city streets. The prince was shocked by what he saw. For the first time, he encountered poverty, sickness, and old age. These sights filled him with sorrow. As they continued their journey, Siddhartha saw a group of monks. They were dressed in simple robes and seemed content. The prince learned that they were seeking liberation from suffering. This encounter sparked a desire in him to find the same peace. Siddhartha returned to the palace, but he could not forget what he had seen. The suffering he witnessed haunted his dreams. He knew he could no longer live in ignorance. The prince resolved to find a way to end suffering, not just for himself, but for all beings. The prince decided to leave his life of luxury behind. He knew he could not find the answers he sought within the palace walls. Siddhartha was determined to find a path to enlightenment, no matter the cost. One night, Siddhartha left the palace secretly. He kissed his sleeping wife and newborn son goodbye. He exchanged his fine clothes for the simple robes of a seeker. Siddhartha was determined to find a way to end suffering. He knew he could not do it as a prince. He had to become a wandering ascetic. For 6 years, Siddhartha wandered the forests of India. He studied with renowned teachers. He practiced extreme forms of meditation and austerity. Siddhartha pushed his body and mind to their limits. He wanted to conquer his desires and find enlightenment. Despite his efforts, Siddhartha did not find the answers he sought. He realized that self-mortification was not the way. He was close to death. Siddhartha accepted milk and rice pudding from a young village girl named Sujata. He regained his strength. Siddhartha knew he needed a new approach. He decided to meditate under a fig tree, now known as the Bodhi tree. He vowed not to move until he found enlightenment. Siddhartha sat beneath the Bodhi tree. He meditated on the nature of suffering. He sought to understand its root cause. He faced temptations and inner demons, but he remained steadfast in his practice. Siddhartha realized that neither extreme luxury nor extreme asceticism led to liberation. As the night wore on, Siddhartha's mind became clear and still. He saw his past lives and the cycle of birth and death. He realized that suffering is a part of life, but it is not permanent. Siddhartha achieved enlightenment and became known as the Buddha, the awakened one. The Buddha's enlightenment was a profound realization. He understood the true nature of reality. The Buddha discovered the path to liberation from suffering, the path to lasting peace and happiness. He was eager to share this wisdom with the world. Section 5. The Four Noble Truths, the heart of Buddha's teachings. The Buddha began teaching the Dharma, his teachings on the path to enlightenment. He shared his wisdom with everyone regardless of their social status or background. The Buddha's teachings offered a way out of suffering. He called them the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is that life is filled with suffering. We experience physical and emotional pain. We face sickness, old age, and death. We crave what we do not have and grieve what we lose. Suffering is a part of life. The second noble truth is that suffering arises from attachment and aversion. We cling to pleasurable experiences and push away unpleasant ones. This creates a cycle of craving and dissatisfaction that leads to suffering. Section 6, the Noble Eightfold Path, a guide to liberation. The third noble truth is that suffering can be overcome. By letting go of attachment and aversion, we can find true peace and happiness. The Buddha called this state nirvana, which means blowing out or extinguishing. The fourth noble truth is the path to the cessation of suffering, known as the Noble Eightfold Path. This path consists of 8 interconnected principles that lead to enlightenment. It is a way of life that cultivates wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The Noble Eightfold Path is not a set of rules to follow blindly. It is a guide to help us live with more awareness, compassion, and wisdom. By practicing the Eightfold Path, we can gradually transform our minds and hearts and find lasting peace. Section 7. Sharing the Dharma Buddha's compassionate mission. For 45 years, the Buddha traveled throughout India. He shared his teachings with all who would listen. He gathered a community of monks and nuns who helped him spread the Dharma. The Buddha's teachings offered hope and a path to liberation from suffering. The Buddha emphasized the importance of compassion and loving kindness. He taught that all beings are interconnected and that our actions have consequences. The Buddha encouraged his followers to live ethically, to cultivate wisdom, and to practice meditation. The Buddha's teachings were revolutionary. He challenged the caste system and emphasized the equality of all beings. The Buddha welcomed people from all walks of life into his community. He taught that anyone, regardless of their background, could achieve enlightenment. Section 8. A Legacy of Wisdom, Buddha's Enduring Impact. The Buddha's teachings spread throughout Asia and eventually the world. Buddhism became one of the major world religions. It continues to inspire millions of people today. The Buddha's message of compassion, wisdom, and liberation from suffering is as relevant today as it was over 2,500 years ago. The Buddha's teachings offer us a path to live more meaningful and fulfilling lives. They teach us to cultivate inner peace, to act with compassion and wisdom, and to live in harmony with ourselves, others, and the world around us. His legacy continues to guide us towards a brighter future.